Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different. We aren't wrestling with, geopolitical flashpoints or the latest breakthroughs in fusion power.
Uh-huh.
Instead, we are setting sail on, well, a phenomenal journey. It's one that combines the ambitious scope of serious, high-stakes marine biology research with the thrilling, personal, coming-of-age story of one very determined young woman.
Yeah, it's a fascinating blend.
We are exploring the world not just through maps, but really through the highly detailed diary entries of 12-year-old Jody McGrath.
That's right. Our sources today take us deep, deep into the world of Lucy Daniels' Dolphin Diaries series.
Yeah.
And like you said, this isn't just a simple adventure story. No, it's centered around the McGrath family's monumental, multi-year marine research endeavor,
Which
they have aptly named the Dolphin Universe Project. It sounds grand, and frankly, it kind of
It
is.
really does. And while the series itself is expansive, 10 books in total, our mission for you today is, well, let's say threefold. First, we're unpacking the foundational narrative arc of the first 4 books. Then, we'll contextualize those adventures within the full 10-book series structure.
Right, see how they fit in the bigger picture.
Exactly. And then, maybe the most intriguing part, especially for those of us who track media production, we're going to investigate the peculiar production history of its limited audiobook adaptation.
Ah, yes. The mystery. It's a fascinating synthesis, isn't it? You've got this detailed adventure log. It's a bit of a scientific primer for young readers. And there's this genuine publishing mystery wrapped up in it.
Totally.
So we need to analyze the narrative strengths, what got the series greenlit in the first place, and then maybe speculate on the potential business dynamics that stopped its audio production. Well, dead in its tracks after just 4 books.
Right. So let's dive in. Let's unpack this crucial first stage of the Dolphin Diaries.
Okay.
To truly understand the potential of this series, I think we have to start right at the beginning. Book 1, Into the Blue.
Makes sense?
This first installment, it immediately establishes the core scientific mission, right? And the emotional stakes. And crucially, the character of Jody McGrath herself. She is 12 years old, and this is really framed as like the adventure of a lifetime for her.
Absolutely. And the setup is monumental. It's not understated. Jody's parents aren't merely academics taking a trip. They are serious marine biologists embarking on what seems like the most ambitious phase of this Dolphin Universe project.
It's huge.
Yeah, this endeavor is far beyond just casual observation. It's conceived as this comprehensive global census and behavioral mapping initiative. They aren't just sailing around for fun.
No.
They are tracking migration patterns, they're conducting bioacoustic research, collecting baseline data on dolphin populations globally. It's serious science.
And the scale of that commitment is just immense. The stated goal, at least for this specific phase of the project mentioned early on, involves 3 months at sea.
3 months.
Yeah, traveling all the way from their home base in Florida to Perth, Australia. That's basically a circumnavigation attempt focused entirely on the world's most dynamic marine ecosystems.
And what I think is particularly clever about the narrative structure here
Mm-hmm.
is that Jody isn't just, the kid of the researchers tagging along.
Right.
No, she's actually integrated into the mission.
Mm.
Our sources really emphasize her commitment to meticulously documenting everything.
Everything.
Yeah, not just the scientific findings, although presumably those too, but the daily life, the emotional roller coaster, both in her physical diary and, kind of charmingly, through emails to her friends back home.
That's a great narrative device.
It really is. It makes the reader the immediate confidant, right? It gives her this essential embedded role within the expedition. She's our human lens, the way we access the data and the feelings.
But science rarely proceeds without incident. The journey doesn't just begin smoothly.
Oh no, not at all.
It immediately runs into high drama. It's literally the first night at sea, and the source material mentions a few teething problems on the family boat, the Dolphin Dreamer.
It sounds quite mild.
It does, but they rapidly escalate into a violent storm. So the narrative shifts immediately from this academic observation platform to high-stakes life-and-death survival.
And that escalation, it feels necessary because it delivers the catalytic moment of the entire series. It justifies the whole premise in a way. Jody is thrown overboard.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. She's struggling to keep afloat in the cold, open ocean, experiencing just pure terror. The narrative kind of needs this profound moment of vulnerability to allow for the, let's be honest, highly implausible, yet totally central resolution.
Wait, hang on. Are you saying this moment of pure physical terror being thrown overboard in a storm is like a required narrative element, almost like a legal justification for the very unusual dolphin rescue that follows?
Precisely. I think that's a great way to put it. The insight here is that the series immediately subverts the idea of a passive child protagonist just watching things happen.
Right.
Jody is rescued by a lost dolphin,
Mm-hmm.
and the narrative doesn't just treat this as some cute coincidence.
No.
No, it's framed as a necessary intervention. It grants Jody this unique, almost mythological utility right from the start.
Hmm.
The payoff is immediate and profound. The very next day, a grateful Jody is swimming with this hero dolphin,
Wow.
cementing a deep, personal, and crucially essential connection. And then she assists him in finding his way back to his pod, using this newly established bond.
So it establishes that her emotional investment, her connection, directly translates into, well, scientific efficacy maybe,
Yeah.
and even personal safety.
Exactly. It sets the stage, it shows her active role.
Okay, that sets us up perfectly then for the next leg, book 2, Touching the Waves.
Yeah.
The family moves into the second stage of the journey, docking in Key West.
Right.
And here, the focus subtly shifts, doesn't it? From that open ocean peril and survival to something more specialized, like a real-world application of dolphin interaction.
Yes, they visit a special dolphin center. It's run by friends of Jody's mother, Gina McGrath. And this center, it isn't focused on the global mapping stuff from book 1. It's dedicated specifically to therapeutic applications.
Yeah.
This is really where the narrative grounds that, slightly fantastical bond from book 1 in documented beneficial science. The center uses structured dolphin interaction for therapy.
And the sources are very clear on the specific application here, helping autistic children learn and develop simply by playing with the dolphins. What exactly does this involve scientifically, do we know, beyond just general interaction? How does this actually function in the story?
Well, the sources don't go into deep clinical detail, but we can infer it touches upon concepts like biofeedback, maybe mirror neurons, structured play environments.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is the presence of the dolphins acts as this calming, non-judgmental presence.
Uh-huh.
And that can often unlock communication pathways in children who struggle in more traditional social settings. The center's work really reinforces that core theme of the series,
Mm-hmm.
that dolphins aren't just subjects of research. They're potential partners in development and therapy.
Well, it elevates it, yeah.
It really does. It
That's
elevates the series above just simple animal adventure stories.
And of course, it also introduces the necessary character friction. You need that in a middle grade series, right?
No, definitely.
Jody meets Lauren, who's the daughter of the center owners, and she's her age, seems like a potential friend. But then we meet Brittany.
Ah, Brittany.
Yeah, who is apparently determined to tag along and just spoil Jody's fun. It sets up that classic tension, between the serious young researcher and maybe the more frivolous outsider.
And the central conflict here is definitely social, but it gets tested and sort of forced toward resolution through a shared professional crisis.
How so?
Well, the Dolphin Center has a special case to handle, is how the source puts it. It's a situation serious enough that it requires the help of Jody, Lauren, and Brittany. All three of them.
Okay, so they have to work together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the critical question posed by the source material is whether this shared high-pressure challenge will ultimately forge, an unbreakable bond through necessity, or if the collaboration will just highlight their fundamental incompatibility and drive them even farther apart.
Interesting. So the narrative utility of Brittany isn't just to be an antagonist or a foil. She kind of represents the outside world, the social complexities that Jody has to learn to manage while performing these critical, important tasks.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's quite sophisticated writing for the target audience, actually.
It sounds like it.
It is. And so, having navigated the complex therapeutic application of their work down in Key West, the McGraths raise the anchor again and continue the circumnavigation.
Onwards.
Which brings us to Book 3, Riding the Storm. And here we see another significant geographical shift. They head into a segment that seems to trade that documented clinical science for something a bit more, like pure nautical lore. They're in the Bahamas.
Okay, the Bahamas, that feels like a significant step in their massive global journey. And this location shift, it allows for a much more focused research goal, right?
Precisely. Jody is apparently really eager to visit the Little Bahama Bank.
Why there specifically?
Well, this is a critical research area.
Yeah.
It's specifically known for its large, stable pods of Atlantic spotted dolphins.
Mhm.
The LBB, because it's shallow and the water's clear, it's often used for long-term behavioral studies, photo ID work, that kind of thing.
Right.
So Jodie's excitement is clearly rooted in observing these specific pod behaviors.
Hmm.
It signals that even within this huge sweeping adventure, the research itself is granular, it's specific.
But the research, it sounds like, gets immediately complicated by, well, the lure of the unknown.
Yeah.
To keep the adventure element alive and kicking.
Yeah.
The narrative hook expands beyond just pure science. The source indicates that Jodie is also determined to find out if the rumors of a lost treasure ship are really true.
Ah, treasure.
Treasure. So you've got dolphins and potential pirate gold.
This blending, right?
Hmm.
A rigorous scientific endeavor, dolphin research, bioacoustics with the romance of nautical lore and potential treasure hunting.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant narrative choice, really.
It keeps things exciting.
Totally. It makes the series highly accessible and thrilling. The discovery of treasure, or even just the hunt for it, provides this external, non-scientific peril that contrasts really sharply with the ecological and social challenges they faced in the previous books. It highlights the vast, multifaceted world the Dolphin Dreamer is sailing through. Science and adventure, hand in hand.
Which brings us neatly to Book 4, Under the Stars. And here, the stakes seem to become intensely emotional and professional. It feels like a culmination of this initial 4-book arc.
Definitely.
While they're navigating the Bahamas, maybe looking for treasure, maybe studying dolphins, the boat gets diverted off course. There's an emergency phone call.
Right.
They are invited or maybe summoned to help at a place called Dolphin Haven with the births of 3 baby dolphins.
And this is a major narrative pivot. Jodie is apparently delighted. The source describes this as the experience of a lifetime for her.
I can imagine.
The setting shifts dramatically, doesn't it? From deep-sea exploration and treasure hunting to the intimate, high-stakes environment of a specialized marine facility. A place where life and death are immediate, tangible realities.
So at Dolphin Haven, they meet the owners, Dan and Alicia Summers, and crucially, the 3 expectant mothers,
All right.
Bella, Misty, and Evie. But this isn't just set up as a scene of joyous anticipation, is it? This is where the narrative introduces genuine, maybe even heartbreaking complication. It elevates the emotional tension significantly.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. They aren't just observing routine births. They are dealing with a critical case that puts tremendous pressure on everyone involved. The source focuses heavily on Evie's history.
What's her story?
She has been pregnant several times before, and her calves have never lived.
Oh, no.
Yeah. This situation is brutally established as Evie's last chance to successfully carry and raise a calf. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Wait. So this isn't just a happy dolphin birth scene. This is potentially a deeply traumatic situation for everyone involved, including the 12-year-old girl who's there observing it. That's heavy material for a middle-grade book.
It is heavy.
What's the narrative function, do you think, of making Evie's crisis so incredibly high stakes?
I think the function is to source Jodie's emotional growth under intense pressure. By making Evie's situation so critical, so perilous, the tension is amplified massively,
Yeah.
right? And the potential failure is just devastating to contemplate.
Right.
This forces Jodie to confront these profound concepts of loss and hope and commitment all at once. We see her personal development through her emotional response. The source says she is intensely worried. She's unsure if she can even bear to see Evie lose her baby again.
Understandable.
But she commits. She commits to being there for her whatever happens, supporting Evie.
So she really moves from being the one rescued by a dolphin back in book 1
Yeah?
to assisting in a social crisis with humans and dolphins in book 2, to now in book 4, facing down potential emotional devastation and offering support in a critical biological event. It's a very clear escalating trajectory of emotional maturity and, I guess, professional commitment, even at her age.
It really is, and it provides an incredibly satisfying and high climax endpoint for this first quarter of the series. The tension of life versus death, hope versus heartbreak. It's a powerful natural conclusion to this initial cycle of their journey. It leaves you wanting to know what happens next, for sure.
Okay, so let's zoom out now. Let's try and unpack this larger scope. We've just covered 4 incredibly detailed, high-stakes adventures, which constitute the first, 40% of the published series?
That's right.
But those documented plots, as intense as they are, they're only the foundation. The full Dolphin Diaries saga spans 10 books in total.
10 books, and looking closely at the concentrated publishing timeline, it actually provides some fascinating context for how intensively this world was developed and produced. Lucy Daniels, or whoever was writing under that name.
Right, that's a whole other discussion.
Indeed. But they established this universe very quickly and prolifically. It really suggests strong editorial confidence in the concept right from the start.
Yeah, the foundation was laid entirely in the year 2000, that rapid initial output, 4 books in 1 year. It suggests the publisher viewed this 4-book arc we just discussed, Into the Blue, Touching the Waves, Riding the Storm, and Under the Stars, as a single, essential volume.
Like Volume 1.
Exactly, required to hook the reader. 4 major narrative installments, defining the characters, the mission, the emotional commitment, all hitting the shelves within 12 months. That's fast.
Very fast.
Right.
Then we see the series' momentum continue, with another concentrated cluster released the very next year in 2001.
Okay.
This included 3 more titles: Chasing the Dream, Racing the Wind, and Dancing the Seas. So this means within just 2 years, the bulk of the series, 7 out of the 10 books, was already out there populating shelves,
Wow.
chronicling the continuous journey of the McGrath family deeper into the ocean and deeper into their research.
And then there's a subtle but, I think, interesting pause before the conclusion.
Yeah, there's a gap.
We see a gap of about 2 years before the final push. The conclusion of the series eventually came in 2003 with the final 3 titles, Following the Rainbow, Leaving the Shallows, and Beyond the Sunrise.
And if we analyze the structure just implied by those titles alone, there's a clear progression, isn't there? It almost mirrors Jodi's emotional growth that we tracked in the first 4.
How so?
Well, the early titles are immediate, very action-oriented, Riding the Storm, Touching the Waves. Then the intermediate titles, the 2001 cluster, seem to focus more on the process of the journey itself, Chasing the Dream, Racing the Wind.
Right, the effort involved.
Exactly. Then the final 3 titles, particularly the conclusive ones released in 2003, Leaving the Shallows and Beyond the Sunrise, they really suggest a maturity, maybe even a departure or a looking ahead.
Leaving the Shallows, that implies moving past known comforts, maybe. Or easy observation areas, getting into deeper waters, or perhaps more complex problems.
Could be. And Beyond the Sunrise, well, that speaks volumes about looking toward a vast, unknown, perhaps even an adult future for Jodi and the project.
This timeline, it's crucial, isn't it? Because it implies the narrative of the Dolphin Universe project, that whole Florida to Perth journey, must have spanned at least 3 years of published adventures.
Yeah, that initial 3-month timeline mentioned way back in book 1.
Right.
That must have just been the very initial phase.
Right.
Or maybe the story just organically expanded far beyond that initial time frame because of the necessity of the discoveries, the crises they encountered along the way.
The journey itself became the primary character, in a sense.
Exactly. And the research goal was maybe continuously updated based on what they found. It wasn't static.
It really reinforces that the destination Perth, Australia, was maybe never as important as the actual process of discovery. The real narrative value was found in the, dozens of stops, the emergencies, the scientific breakthroughs encountered on the way.
It solidifies the continuous, evolving nature of real marine research. It's not just point A to point B.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think, and where we shift gears a bit from analyzing the fictional world to analyzing the economic and production reality of the publishing industry itself.
Right, the meta level.
We have evidence that an audiobook series based on the Dolphin Diaries definitely exists, that confirms it was seen as adaptable, valuable, beyond just print.
That's fact. The series was adapted into audio format, which, confirms its perceived value.
Oh.
However, the crucial point we have to analyze, the limitation mentioned right in our source material, is that only the first 4 audiobooks were ever made.
Just the first 4.
Just the first 4. 6 books, the majority of the series, the entire second half of the journey, were left unadapted, vanished into thin air, audio-wise.
This presents a major analytical puzzle, doesn't it? Especially since the source material specifically challenges us, go into depth as to why only the first 4 audiobooks were made.
Yeah, it lays down the gauntlet.
It does. And since the sources themselves provide no direct answer, we're kind of forced to engage in informed speculation based on, publishing business logic and maybe the narrative structure we've just discussed.
Okay, let's speculate. Let's start with the most obvious symmetry. The 4 audiobooks that were made correspond precisely to the 4 books for which we have those detailed plot summaries.
The 2000 cluster.
Exactly. Into the Blue, Touching the Waves, Riding the Storm, Under the Stars. This strongly suggests that the initial 4 constituted a natural, self-contained narrative unit, Volume 1 of the Dolphin Diaries, as you said earlier.
Okay, that makes sense. So why would an adaptation stop right there, right after the emotional high point, the climax of the Evie birthing crisis in Book 4?
Well, we can speculate this was probably driven primarily by strategic production reasons, or maybe financial ones. The audiobook contract, for instance, was almost certainly written only for an initial proof of concept batch.
Like a pilot.
Exactly, a pilot batch of 4, designed specifically to test market reception before committing to the significantly more expensive remaining 6 titles.
Right. Let's think about the economics of audio, especially back then. Producing audiobooks, it requires substantial upfront investment, right? You gotta secure voice talent.
Multiple roles here, child and adult.
Studio time, editing, post-production costs. It adds up. If those initial 4 audiobooks were maybe released simultaneously or close together, the production cycle for the remaining 6 would have been strictly contingent on the cumulative sales and the return rate of that first batch, and probably within a very short initial sales window.
Absolutely. Budgets are tight. If those numbers, even if the print books were selling well, if the audio numbers fell below whatever internal financial projections they had,
The green light threshold.
right, that specific threshold required for the more expensive second batch,
Yeah.
the project just stalls
Yeah.
immediately. A publisher doesn't usually cancel a popular book series outright.
Nope.
They just postpone, maybe indefinitely, the ancillary media adaptation, like the audiobooks.
Yeah.
It's kind of a classic example of an adaptation maybe outpacing the business model required to sustain it at that time.
We also have to consider the external factors, too. In the early 2000s, the audiobook market, especially for middle-grade content like this, was still pretty nascent compared to what it is today.
Oh, completely different world.
Publishers might have just been testing the waters, dipping their toes into a new format, especially in a category where physical book sales still absolutely dominated. If the profit margin on the audio was too tight, or the potential market just seemed too small to justify the continuous effort and cost required for 6 more books.
The decision to halt is purely pragmatic. It's business,
Yeah.
regardless of the narrative quality or potential.
Yeah.
Furthermore, let's consider the increasing narrative complexity that's implied by the later titles. If the initial 4 books focused largely on these immediate, maybe geographically restricted crises, Key West, the Bahamas,
Right.
the later 6 books needed to continue the journey all the way to Perth. That implies a dramatically expanding cast of characters, probably regional experts they meet, much more varied environments,
Different accents, maybe?
potentially, and perhaps a need for highly specialized sound design to reflect the constantly changing locales and different scientific protocols they might be using.
That would substantially raise the production budget for those later books, wouldn't it? Making
Yeah.
them a much higher risk proposition than that initial foundational arc.
Definitely. And that Evie storyline in Book 4, as
Yeah.
we discussed, it provided the perfect, satisfying narrative conclusion to that initial lower risk,
Yeah.
high impact first batch. It was a natural stopping point if you needed one.
It really creates this stark contrast. The print series found its success through sustained narrative expansion going the distance,
Yeah.
while the audio series, maybe beholden to more immediate financial performance metrics, just couldn't sustain the necessary commitment. The 4-book stop becomes a powerful illustration of that friction between creative ambition and commercial reality in media adaptation. Well put.
Now, let's pivot entirely. Let's look ahead, because the source material also raised this specific idea. How this series could potentially be revived now, given that the characters, especially Jodie, have aged considerably.
The revival concept.
Yeah. This requires us to extrapolate Jodie's life trajectory entirely based on her 12-year-old origins. What would adult Jodie be like?
Okay, based on the detailed profile we've sort of built up here. Jodie is driven. She's intensely empathetic. She was technically proficient even from a young age, remember, running the expedition log.
Right.
And absolutely committed to marine science. So let's fast forward, say, 20 years. Adult Jodie would be in her early 30s.
Okay.
She wouldn't just be journaling anymore. She would almost certainly possess a PhD. She'd be a fully credentialed Dr. McGrath, right? Having likely inherited the Dolphin Universe mission in a professional capacity, maybe alongside her parents or even leading it herself.
So her revival story wouldn't be about, can she survive a storm?
But maybe can she secure that critical grant funding for the next 5 years of research? The challenges shift dramatically from personal peril to professional responsibility, institutional challenges, large-scale global issues.
Exactly. Imagine Dr. Jodie McGrath having to tackle contemporary marine biology problems.
Right.
Things that were maybe only theoretical 2 decades ago when the books first came out. Her core conflict would move from managing, tricky social dynamics with Britain
Oh, yeah.
to tackling devastating global conservation issues. For instance, maybe she's fighting against habitat loss caused by coastal development. Or perhaps even more relevant to her specific expertise, studying the impact of acoustic pollution from commercial shipping on the very dolphin migration patterns she helped track as a child.
That's a powerful evolution. That intimate knowledge she gained as a kid, like being able to identify specific pods in the Little Bahama Bank from Book 3 that would now translate directly into a commitment to saving entire populations. We could see her deploying, I don't know, advanced satellite tagging protocols.
Yeah, drones.
It's a significant technological jump from her old diary and email entries.
Absolutely. Or a revival could also see her return to that therapeutic center in Key West, the site of Book 2.
Okay.
Now, however, she's not just observing. Maybe she's running it. She could be the one applying her parents' research legacy to a new generation of children, perhaps using the center to develop cutting-edge behavioral studies that leverage that unique human-dolphin bond she first discovered when she was thrown overboard all those years ago.
Or bigger still, perhaps she's running her own fully commissioned research vessel, maybe the next iteration, the Dolphin Dreamer II.
I like that.
Instead of merely chronicling the journey to Perth, she might be tackling deep-sea questions or studying cetacean intelligence in areas her parents never even reached, pushing the boundaries of the dolphin universe project way out into the Pacific or the Southern Ocean.
And the emotional weight of that revival would definitely come from her past. Her commitment to Evie's critical birth back in Book 4, that intense experience, would translate into a fierce commitment to advocacy. You could see her lobbying governments or international bodies, trying to create protected marine areas based on the very data she first helped collect as a young girl. The tension would shift fundamentally from, say, finding a lost treasure ship to literally trying to save a species from extinction.
It's a really powerful potential path, isn't it? Taking that intense childhood passion and watching it blossom into real expertise, professional leadership. It provides a natural and compelling transition for maybe an older target audience, the ones who grew up reading the initial books.
Yeah, it feels like a very organic way to continue her story.
So wrapping this up, what does this deep dive mean for you listening?
Well, we have meticulously tracked Jody McGrath's foundational journey through its first 4 really formative books. It was a blend of high seas peril, solid scientific grounding, and this profound emotional connection, all culminating in those critical life and death stakes at Dolphin Haven.
Yeah, and we now understand the ambitious scope of the full 10-book world that Lucy Daniels created and created rapidly over 3 intense years of publication back in the early 2000s. We've also synthesized the knowledge we have about the series' core themes, adventure, science, empathy, with the intriguing reality of its publishing history, particularly raising those essential questions about why only the formative initial narrative, ARC books 1 through 4, was deemed commercially viable for adaptation into audio.
It really serves as a potent reminder, doesn't it, that narrative satisfaction, critical acclaim, even strong print sales, they often intersect with business logistics and market realities in unpredictable ways, especially in the media landscape.
Absolutely. The story of Jody McGrath, at its heart, is a story of ambition and empathy, driven by the sheer excitement of discovery. We know the family was heading from Florida all the way across the globe to Perth, Australia, a massive goal that ultimately necessitated 10 books to chronicle fully.
We've detailed the intense action, the emotional highs and lows that took place only through the first 4 books, taking them just into the Bahamas. But consider the vast distance, both geographical and emotional, that had to be covered in those final 6 books, from Chasing the Dream right through to the conclusive Beyond the Sunrise.
That's a lot of ocean.
A huge amount.
Yeah.
If that journey took 3 years to publish in full, just imagine what new, unseen ecological dangers, what previously undocumented species, what breathtaking scientific discoveries awaited Jody after that intense experience at Dolphin Haven as they crossed the vastness of the Indian Ocean.
Did she finally reach the shores of Perth, fulfilling that initial mission brief as a key foundational member of the Dolphin Universe team, maybe ready to tackle the final Pacific leg?
Or did the constant beautiful challenge of the journey itself, the process of discovery, ultimately prove to be the real and lasting destination for her and her family?
That's a deep dive question for you to explore on your own.